morning. Hey, everybody. What's going on? This is Jeremy coming at you fresh into quarantine. I'm loving every second of it because it means I get to stay home and enjoy myself. And that's what life is really all about. But we got virus stuff to talk about. We got quarantine stuff to talk about. And here to do that with me today is one of my best good buddies in the whole wide world, Big Bomber Bill Tunna.
Hey, Jeremy.
What are you?
How you doing, buddy? Glad to be here. Everything's all right in San Antonio, Texas. We're living.
Are you wearing a protective mask?
Yeah, man, I'm living it. Hold on one sec. I need some hand sanitizer. Mom! Mom! Mom, can you bring me some hand sanitizer? Hold on. Mom! You put some hand sanitizer when she gets to it. But yeah, we're doing right over here. Everybody's Lord's in charge. It's really going great.
That's a beautiful mask. I take it that you have not gotten infected by the virus.
It's kind of hard to breathe, but I'm doing great. I haven't been infected by it.
No, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to take that off for the remainder of the podcast, so people can see your smiling face. I'm sure it's safe, right? You know, you don't.
Sacrifices have to be made.
Sacrifices have to be made, absolutely. And from what I understand, I don't think there's any reported viruses there in the Ten Eyck home. I could be wrong about that, but you know, are there any reported cases there in the Ten Eyck home? Is everything okay there?
Oh man, we're peachy keen here. Everything's all right. As I told you, Saturday I made the daring supply raid, if you will.
Walmart survival supply raid.
Yes, sir. I was able to find cases of beer, wine, some chips, video games, and it only took me 8 different stores to get it. Oh, and some water. 8 different stores to get it. And then Sunday we decided to do it again with Dad. He's just doing his weekly grocery shopping. Now here comes the important part.
I like the important part.
You know, me and my dad made this very clear to ourselves and everyone in the general 2 feet vicinity that we weren't panic buying. We were bulk buying to stay indoors for a week. There's a difference. And 2 grocery carts later, we were home. We were able to actually
pull your mic away from your mouth a little bit. I can hear you breathing. There you go. Good.
We were actually able. Prize of the day was a 4-pack of toilet paper.
Wow.
I got it myself. Made a beeline for it. Some old lady was eyeballing it, but I was like, "Get out of here, old lady."
Well, I'm glad that you didn't break out into a fight over the toilet paper.
It wouldn't be a fight. It'd be a massacre.
But see, you know what's funny? I still, to this date, I don't understand the panic over the toilet. Of all things, toilet paper is the panic, right? You're not worried about the essential stuff like, oh, I don't know, first aid, like alcohol, hygiene equipment, like
soap. There's still plenty of body wash and shampoo and all that.
These are important things we need to worry about.
And it's funny. It's funny too, because when they said that toilet paper stuff, you know what it reminded me of? Basic training, being deployed. Got that roll of toilet paper with you.
Oh, yeah, because everybody had to have 1 roll of toilet paper in their packing list, at least.
Yeah, 1 roll of toilet paper. Well, actually, when I deployed, it was baby wipes, but they had rolls of toilet paper for you if you wanted to get one. Basic training, though, they handed out the rolls, and once you started reaching the end of that roll, you know, a week or two, it'll be all crunched up. You'd be trying to get all wet. You'd be trying to get falling apart.
I remember the old days in the Army when you actually had to take your empty toilet paper roll to supply to get a new toilet paper, because the supply sergeant was always like, it was weird. He was acting like it was coming out of his own supply. You know what I mean? It was like, no, these.
He's like, I'm taking a hit for me here, man.
My toilet paper.
I'm taking a hit. All right.
I mean, meanwhile, we've got Congress and the Pentagon and everything else spending money left and right because it's our tax dollars and it doesn't matter anyway to them. But that's no big deal. Oh, but you need toilet paper? I don't think so.
You know, there's some general in charge of logistics that's standing in a warehouse with a clipboard, has all these boxes that say TP on the back, and he's like, "What are we gonna do with all this TP we got? We got like excess amount." And they're like, "Should we send it to the other units?" No. Let's just keep it here. There you go.
What was it? Was it the Air Force? I think it was that had gotten dinged in their budget for like these. What was it, like $400 coffee mugs?
Oh, it was like $1,000, and it was like, it's a space age coffee cup. And I remember I was talking to you about it, and we were just like, it's an Army man and it's an Air Force guy, and the Air Force guy is like, I got this new space age cup. It cost me $1,000 to make. And the Army guy looks at him and goes, wow, I got a new space age cup too. The Air Force guy goes, how much did it cost you? He goes, oh, free. And he just takes the Air Force guy's cup and just walks off with it. Like, man.
I don't remember how much. Was it $1,200? Here, this says $1,200.
It was something, and you're like, man, come on, Air Force.
Yeah, really, like.
Supposed to be good with numbers.
Yeah, the nerds of the military world, and we're like, okay.
They can find the grid coordinates on a map, but they can't get the numbers right on how to make a tumbler.
I need air support. You're doing good.
You're doing great.
Anyway, so we're breaking off. It's been, I don't know, it's probably been a week. Jacob has been doing a lot of stuff to get his health under control, and so we're breaking off away a little bit from the breaking out series or the digging out series to kind of talk about what's going on currently in the world. And I've been making a lot of jokes about this whole quarantine thing. To me, it's like, dude, I've lived through this before, like the Ebola virus.
This is a standard Army day. This is a standard being on a base day. There's gonna come a time when you're on base, you're like, everybody, stay home. Don't go off base.
Yeah, that's it. And now civilians, you guys understand what it's like to have your first sergeant come along and say, "Oh, you had plans this weekend? Not anymore."
Try having to do a 24-hour, CQ watch or something where you just have to sit there and that's it.
Yeah. This is just another fine Army day for some of us.
Yeah, this is the TP included.
The Air Force guys are pissed off. Like, wait, what? We on call? Huh?
As he's drinking a Mai Tai, like, what's a call forwarding?
I don't understand this on call thing. What does that mean? Anyway, so the coronavirus is a potential threat. It's a thing. And people are taking it a little more seriously, not so seriously that they're buying important staples like, say survival food or peanut butter, which has a much longer shelf life than say, meat.
Ooh, but it actually never actually thought about that.
Yeah, well, because if you go to the grocery store, they're out of toilet paper, they're running low on bottled water, they're all out of like the frozen foods, low on eggs, milk,
out of
cheese.
Hot dogs and bologna.
People are buying stuff that expires within weeks. And I'm like, dude, do you guys like the first thing we need to understand about survival is, unfortunately, preservatives are bad, but you have to have food that are loaded with preservatives, or you're going to need to find a way to preserve your food. Now, it's a survival situation. So let's just say, for example, maybe something happens with the power grid. Okay. The power grid goes down. You don't have a freezer anymore. When your freezer goes out,
you're screwed.
What are you going to do? You're not going to use salt to keep all that food fresh. It's going to be impossible. You don't have that much salt lying around, do you? You're going to go out and bury it in the backyard in a little pretty plastic bag and hope that the ground stays cool enough? No, you're not going to do that. That food is going to go bad.
Yeah.
Oatmeal, peanut butter, crackers. I know nobody wants to eat oatmeal, peanut butter, and crackers. Canned food. Yes, again, loaded with preservatives, but still, at least you're eating.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I think before you get too far away with the subject
of
the coronavirus being kind of you have to remember the numbers. It has a 97% success, let me rephrase that.
97%
recovery rate. It has like a 3%, lethality or 2% where it can actually kill you, So I feel like we have to do our part and tell them that part.
And there's some new breakthrough stuff with the malaria pill. And now obviously it can't go through FDA testing because it would take way too long to do this with FDA testing. It's an experimental thing, but they need approval, for the feds to be like, okay, we can go ahead and try these experimental things because this is what we would call a pandemic, the right to try and all. So there is a possibility of these malaria drugs actually saving lives from the virus. So that needs to be said as well. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It sucks. It's a crappy situation, but it's a doable situation. It's a workable situation. It's not all hope is lost.
No, absolutely not.
It's definitely a recoverable, a bounce back one. And I don't see us bouncing back and the infrastructure being messed up or anything. I see us just like I see us a month from now, them going, oh hey, if you didn't hear, you can go to the bar. Oh
yeah.
Cool,
This is not one of those situations where we're going to be out singing "We shall overcome."
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No.
This is like this is going to be like the swine flu back in 2000. Gosh, what was it? 2010, I think. 2011.
I was deployed.
Yeah, so the swine flu was a real big deal, and I remember people telling me like, "Oh, well, they just got a vaccine. You got to go get vaccinated. You got to go get vaccinated." And I went, "No,
no, I'm good. I'm gonna play my video games." Just self-quarantine.
At my age, I wasn't worried about it in the first place. If I would have contracted the swine flu back then, chances are I would have recovered anyway. And it really wasn't, again, it was one of those overblown, hyped up things. And I think that's what we're dealing with now. Not to diminish the fact that people have passed away from this, but there's a lot of things that people pass away from that we don't do anything about.
Yeah.
Heart disease, for example.
Obesity.
I mean, we probably have more people that die in car accidents every year than will die of this virus in the United States.
Well, a lot of those people have died were they old and previously sick already. If I'm correct, they just had weak immune systems and they just couldn't handle it. I mean, like me or someone younger has a strong immune system. It's at his prime, I guess. Healthy. Like me and you, I don't think we have anything to worry about. I think if I got it right now, I'd be like, stay in bed, play video games, bring it on.
Sleep it off, drink plenty of fluids, you'd be fine. You're gonna treat it like another flu season or something like that. But likewise, because there are Americans who do have that scenario with their immune system where maybe they're not as healthy or they're not as strong, or you've got somebody, say, for example, somebody that I know. Her and her husband are self-quarantining because her husband is actually in the healthcare industry, and he's I forget what, he's an anesthesiologist. And so because he's an anesthesiologist, he has to be ready to go in. And so he owes it to everybody in that field to stay as healthy as possible. And part of being as healthy as possible is for his wife to self-quarantine as well and work from home so that, just in case he gets called away, he's not accidentally infecting somebody. That's the responsible thing to do. And that's why most of us, despite the fact that it is a running joke that I'm goofing off about this whole thing, the fact is, the reason we self-quarantine, the reason that we quarantine in general is because we're protecting other Americans. And see, this is what's beautiful about America. We do it because we love each other. I hate this. I really hate to say it like this, but here's how this works. We have something bad happen, and that brings our nation back together.
Yeah.
We all of a sudden forget Democrat, Republican, independent, black, white, whatever. We all forget all about, who we identify as or who we are or whatever. And we start focusing on the greater good. What's most important. Then we reach out and then we protect each other and help each other out.
Yeah.
And it's sad that it takes a pandemic or a 9/11 or a Pearl Harbor or something like that for us to band together, because I'm calling it out right now. 20 years from now, we're going to be right back where we were with some other insane BS.
Oh yeah.
But for
I mean,
for the time being, it's a beautiful thing that we're banding together.
Yeah. You have to look at it this way too. It took 2 world wars for NATO to be created, NATO and the UN to be created. So, I mean, that's a pretty good point. It takes something bad for us to get to working together, holding hands.
And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you on the whole NATO UN thing. If we had to get another world war together to get rid of the UN, I wouldn't be upset. That's a side note.
That's another talk for another day.
Yeah. But so that brings us to kind of our main topic for today. Do the feds, do the states, do they have the right, or is it constitutional rather for these government entities to lock us down?
It's a thin line. It's a blur.
It's a deep question.
It's a blurry line. So let's kind of elaborate here. the draft kind of falls in on this, because you can argue the draft that it's unconstitutional because you're making someone go do something they don't want. So you can argue that fact with, the government. You can't lock us down. It's unconstitutionally right. And there are people here. Texas, San Angelo is like, everybody stay home.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's like that, Abilene. A lot of countries like, just stay home. When you just stay home, there are people that are like, well, that's infringing on our rights. We can't have 10 people at a bar or at a church event or something like that. They're saying it's already infringing on the rights. So of course, if they do a lockdown, someone's going to raise their hand and be like, yo, this is unconstitutional. Yeah, you can also argue that, but also the federal government probably would argue that you walking around is considered a hazard to someone else because you could be infected or you can get infected, which then means they can interfere with it. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you've heard otherwise, please step in and correct me if I'm wrong. But they can't interfere. Like law enforcement intervenes with a guy trying to jump off a bridge. He's trying to do self-harm. They'll run up and catch the guy and throw him off the bridge. Bring him back.
So here's where it gets messy is because on one side of it, like you said, I do have rights. Yes, absolutely I do. But on the other side of it, my rights end where somebody else may be hurt because of my actions.
Yeah, exactly.
So we absolutely have a free country. And yes, you can absolutely go and do whatever it is that you want to do in this country. However, when your actions affect other people, then yes.
Yeah, totally.
We're in a sticky situation because then, yes, we've actually given the government the absolute right to interfere with that kind of thing, i.e. the police force.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have a police force if those rights couldn't potentially be taken away because of your actions.
Yeah. I think it's I think the people that are kind of raising a ruckus about this, that are like, hey, this is infringement, are typically the people that just like to kind of bicker about stuff, because it's like, hey, lockdown, you're required to stay in your home, and it's just like, it's like, oh no, I have to stay in home. What? At home? Oh my God, I have to stay at home all day by myself? What? What am I going to do?
Those of you who can't see, Bill's holding up different objects. One of them was a bottle of wine. One of them
TV remote,
a controller.
Like it's
TV remote.
It's kind of, it's dumb. It's like, stay at home. You're required to. Okay.
Well, see, here's some of us. We've been practicing for this for years because people like you, people like me, I've traveled the world. I've been all over the place. I know what there is to see.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not that exciting. There's nothing that great out there.
I wasn't going to say that, but I agree with most of your part. I agree with most.
It's not that exciting. And I get it. We even had this conversation last night where I have a certain
you're a straight shooter. You're what was it? You're someone will say their personal opinion and you'll just be like, nope, that's dumb.
That's dumb.
That's dumb.
I have a way about me of just I'm very dry. I don't sugarcoat anything. I call things like I see them. Yeah, and that's probably why, being a podcast host is fitting.
You let your opinion be known, and that's, I mean, let's face the fact. A bunch of people have made a lot of money with that kind of that attitude. Like, this is my opinion. You're dumb.
Well, yeah. Stand-up comedians probably are the best of it because all they do is they crank the volume up to 11. Fair enough. That's how I see the world, is black and white. There's really not, like, I don't see a lot of in between. Like, hey, I'd love to travel the world someday and go see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I'm like, why? It's just a busted tower.
Some idiot.
There's nothing to see. It's leaning over. Big freaking deal. Whoop-de-doo.
You should just pull it up on Google.
Yeah, just pull it up on Google and then Photoshop a picture of yourself in front of it and just.
Oh yeah.
Happy-go-lucky guy. There we go. Everything is hunky-dory.
Yeah.
I just like. I mean, I've been enough places in this world to know that I just don't care about them. And
and
the 7 wonders of the world, not that amazing.
Yeah. You have to. You actually have touched on a very good point. A lot of people are starting to capitalize on these lower price tickets and cruise fares because of the coronavirus. Like, you're getting like pennies on the dollar, and it's like it's like dumb. They're like, and they're just like, you would think like the younger generation is going to do that, and you're like, oh, do they not understand what's going on? Like, that country they're going to, they have a good amount of sick people. I'm not saying it's an epidemic. I'm not saying like panic, panic, panic. I'm saying you can go there. You may just get kind of sick. You have to consider that. But then they're like,
action meet consequence.
Yeah, but then they're like, I don't care if I get sick. I'm going to see the world. And it's like, okay, maybe you should go and get sick. We don't need that kind of logic.
From that perspective, from that point, like there are, the theory of evolution really holds a lot of water when you start looking at things like that. Or there's another one
Darwin's
where
theory?
The strong survive.
Well, you have to remember
survival of the fittest.
I think there's a scientific term for it. I can't remember if it's strength or something like that, but it's your ability to live long period.
Yeah, well, the theory is survival of the fittest.
Yeah, and I think they like fitness or something like that is like your ability to live longer by knowing
longevity.
Longevity by being making smart choices and like realizing, hey, that's a fire. I shouldn't go over there. I'm gonna go over here.
Yeah, that's the strongest survive theory. And to the younger college age kids credit, they're fearless. They're bold. They're like, you know what? No, I'm going down to Cancun, baby.
Yeah, that's what they did. It's funny too because they've had like
have fun.
They've had a rise in the spring break. They've had like a rise in the coronavirus, and people are like, hey, it's risen.
The meme of the burning building and the little dog sitting at the table. This is fine.
And it's funny too because they'll be there and they'll be like, I planned this trip 2 months ago, and I want to go to some bars, and they're all closed. And so, what am I supposed to do now? And part of me is like, just kind of staring at them and being like, it's called pre-bottled. You can
you can pick this stuff at Walmart for $9.
It's pretty good.
It's okay. Barefoot wine.
It gets you drunk.
I kind of like it. It's cheap. I like cheap.
You know me. I've played while drinking that, and I'm very vocal when I'm drinking and flying the helicopter.
Oh, that was last night. But so the survival of the fittest theory, these guys are actually going out and proving it. Mm-hmm. And here, I don't want to be insincere, but you if you're going and you're traveling the world right now, you're stupid.
Oh yeah.
This is a stupid time to do it. Yes, I get it. It's cheap and you're saving money and you don't, you're living off of ramen noodles, but you're traveling to Cancun. That's fine. You do you, have fun, enjoy your life, but you got to think about the future as well. And the survival of the fittest theory is coming back. And it's weird how history just repeats itself and people just make these dumb decisions you have all over again, time and time again. And we don't learn from anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got way off track. So let's talk about this. So is it ethical? Is it constitutional for the government, for the states, for the feds, even for your local government to tell you like, no, stay home?
I honestly, if you, like I said, the people that are making a big fuss of it are the people that just like to bicker about things. If the government came to me right now and they put on TV, we're putting a state lockdown, I'd be like, okay, cool. Whatever, dude. Like, there's a problem going on. There's a problem going on right now. Now, if we start approaching like a 3-month or a 6-month or something like that, and food lines are starting to form, that's when things are like, okay, what's going on here? You guys have had a moment. What's going on? We need some more information. What's going on? If I'm sitting in my house and they did the lockdown and I'm at my house and I see a National Guard Humvee pass by with guys with guns on it, I'm gonna be like, they're stopping looters or stopping people from robbing. I honestly, because a lot of the students have gone home. ASU told them, don't show up to class, we're switching to online classes. And a lot of teachers are like, just go home. And where I live is right across the street from the campus. So there are a lot of houses here that have multiple students living in them, renting it out. And so I imagine there's just a lot of empty houses right now because people are going. So I imagine some people are going to be trying to squat and break in and steal some stuff. For them to claim it's unconstitutional, I see where you're coming from. But really, at this moment, do we? If they say it's a state lockdown, it's obviously worse and kind of bigger than us, and I think we may just need to follow it. Now, if they come up and I get the knock at the door and it's like, I need to take your guns, then I'm like, hey, do you really want to go down this road? Because I've been in your shoes before, Chief. Do you really want to go down this road?
Well, so we got to think about something here. What are the roles of the government? You remember this?
It's the way I always took it is, I don't know it word for word, but they take a look at the bigger picture. They just essentially make sure everything's running fine, and we have a military.
Well,
please correct me if I'm wrong.
Militarily speaking, I say we, I'm not in the federal government, so they are required to protect the citizens of the country, national security, right? Mm-hmm. So when something comes along that it's a matter of national security for any stretch of the imagination that you can find, like you could draw attention to the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Pearl Harbor, things like that. Those were national security issues. But likewise, when something threatens the population, even if it is such a small amount of people, like a 3% death rate of the coronavirus, we're still talking about national security, because the security of the the security of the state in general, it's really the responsibility of the government to maintain, because livelihood. Let's go back to the Constitution, right? So we've got people that are saying, well, the government doesn't have the right to tell me to quarantine or stay home or whatever. Well, we have got to consider that the Constitution says that we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right?
That's a good point.
We're always talking about the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. We're almost never talking about the role of life and liberty. So if we all have the right to life, then in order to protect some people's lives, I think it is, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, I think it is constitutional that we allow from time to time a suggested quarantine or even, I hate to use the term lockdown, because I don't know that that's, I think there's a negative connotation that comes along with the term lockdown.
What do lockdowns usually refer to? Prisons, jails.
Lockdown, i.e. mandatory.
Yeah, you see it a lot in jails.
Mandatory quarantine. So like, people are talking about like, well, they're rolling out the National Guard. I'm like, and
good.
Have you ever, if you've spent 30 seconds with the National Guard, they're the most underfunded, undertrained branch of the military that you'll ever find. And it's not their fault. It's because they're state funded.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not a federal thing. The feds don't beef up the National Guard. This is a state thing.
Yeah.
So when because I served in the Guard for 1 year.
Yeah.
I did 5.5 years active duty, and then I did a year in the Guard. And the year in the Guard was really to kind of, get a feel for what it's like and see if this is something I might want to do on a full-time basis, maybe add to the retirement portfolio, what have you. And after spending 5.5 years on active duty, 5 years and 8 months, which by the way was because of a stop loss, that's a whole different story. I know somebody's sitting here going like, "What? 5 years and 8 months? You can't." No, the Army doesn't do that. Yes, they stop loss people. Shut up. It happens during time of war.
No, trust me. I was in the same boat. I was in the same boat, but reversed.
Oh yeah, you got stop minimized. They're like, tonight, you can go home if you want to.
We're gonna pay you to go home. That's about the only.
He was such a stellar soldier. They were like, go.
That's about the only good thing the Obama administration did, was just be like, cut the military down.
Let me go home a little bit early. I don't think it's a good thing that they cut the military down, but I think that it was nice of them to let you out of your contract a little early.
I think it was like 6 months.
Hey, we're going back to Afghanistan. I'm going home.
I remember, actually, that's literally what happened. That's literally what happened. I remember my last night in Germany, I was walking back to my barracks for 3 more hours before I left, and I could see the trucks, big deuce and a half trucks, armored vehicles rolling out as they were going to the field. those big field exercises where they were leaving like at 8 at night. Yeah, and you're like giving them the middle finger. You're like, I was like,
bye,
I was like 8 blocks away, and I actually thought for a second about running up there real quickly, breaking my PT record just to flip them off, just mess with them.
No, it was good times, but. So I think, and I hate to take this position because I'm typically a little bit of a libertarian, a little bit anarchist, especially when it comes to taxes. I'm an extreme anarchist when it comes to taxes. Stay out of my damn wallet. Yeah. But I think I actually have to side with the move that the federal government is making at this point, where they're saying quarantine.
Self-quarantine.
Now, we have to also understand something else, because in context, quarantine, the word itself sounds like we're saying stay home, don't go anywhere, don't do anything, stay out. Really, let's really look at the words. They're not telling you not to go anywhere. We're not locked down. We're not told we have to stay home.
Yeah, they're saying minimize it, you know. It's like, it's minimize your trips. Hey, also, all your favorite restaurants and bars are closed down. You know, the skate shops closed down, everything. But you don't have to stay home. You can't just go to your favorite place, though. You know, you have to.
There's places that are going to remain open for survival purposes, like
GameStop,
because Walmart. What?
Yeah, GameStop was open.
Survival purposes. Nice.
Well, hold on. I think that plan is actually quite smart, because they're like, leave the video game shop open so people will grab video games to stay home and play the darn things.
You know, we can download video games.
Oh, yeah. That's why I'm sure
it's 2020, baby.
I'm sure that's why Steam's going to be going on and having a great sale.
Oh, yeah. If Steam was a publicly traded company, I'd be buying shares.
I don't blame you at all.
They have the market, bud. All these other game companies that are trying to put out their own launcher, they're idiots.
Yeah, they're not going to.
They're just trying to copy success.
They're not going to survive.
But anyway, again, back to that. We get sidetracked a lot here. There's a lot of attention deficit disorder.
ADHD, dyslexia.
So what do you think? Okay. Oh yeah. So back to the context. So the context of quarantine, we got to understand this. Quarantine doesn't mean lock yourself up in a room and don't see anybody ever.
Yeah.
What it means is avoid unnecessary contact with as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Which, again, this is one of those things. I've been practicing this thing all my life. Like, I was equipped for this from birth, man. I know how to quarantine from people. It's easy.
I mean,
I'll still go out, get my groceries, and pick up things that I need to get. That's no big deal. But I'm not over there like hugging everybody and high-fiving people left and right.
You have to remember, there are literally army courses in the military to train you to be seen by as little people and to see as little people as possible. So we're kind of good at it.
I took that class 3 times.
It's just a fun class.
Yeah. And so when you look at the context of the word quarantine, it really is simple. It simply means isolation. Don't overexpose. You don't have to necessarily isolate. Even the CDC is saying, hey, groups of 10 people or less. Yeah. Yeah, that's real easy. Like, I couldn't get 10 people over to my house if I wanted to. Like, hey guys, we're having a party. 1 person show up. Free beer. 20 people show up.
You know, the closest thing you can get to having 10 people in your house is having a guy with the last name Tin Ike.
Oh, I see what you did there. Ladies and gentlemen, he'll be here all week because he can't go anywhere.
Yeah, we're quarantined, so we'll be here for a minute.
So consider that context with the word quarantine and understanding, like, okay, it's not a death sentence. They're not putting you in the hole. You're not in San Quentin doing time in the hole. We're just sitting here refreshing.
You can go.
And this is actually a very funny thing. Yeah. There's a concept biblically that says to remember the Sabbath. Okay. You know what a Sabbath is? Okay, I'll tell you.
So, tip of my tongue. Go ahead.
Pump the brakes there, stud. I don't want you to sound dumb.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I'm such a nice guy.
I know. So a Sabbath is where you essentially take one day out of the week and you don't do anything. You don't labor. You break, you take a rest, and rest is mandatory for the human body to survive, to maintain.
Reflect.
It's necessary for the brain. You gotta, your mindset has to, you have to pause and you have to rest. We're really, really good at resting for the most part, but there's a lot of people out there who they get stuck into their own little world and their own little bubble, and they just grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. Well, if you grind the axe too much, sooner or later you don't have an axe, right? So we have to do what the Bible calls Sabbath. So when you Sabbath, it's essentially just you saying, okay, today I'm not doing any work. I'm resting. I'm spending time with my family. I'm, maybe catching up with so whatever it is, maybe catching up on the latest Netflix series. Maybe I'm going to read a great book. It's whatever. You do what you do to bring yourself back to a level of sanity. And history has shown time and time and time and time again, if you don't do whatever it is that you enjoy and you break and rest and do all these things, you break down physically, mentally, emotionally. Everything that's stable in your life just disappears. It stops. It just grinds to a halt, and you cease to function. You slip into depression. You start developing anxiety. All these other really terrible things begin to happen to you. So that being said, I'm looking at this from a totally different perspective, where I'm saying, you know what? Maybe we all needed a break as a nation.
Yeah.
Maybe we, the people of the world, actually needed to learn how to stop for a minute and take a break. Because there's an analogy that I used here just recently. When you're running as fast as you can, trying to survive from something, like you're not just pleasantly strolling along. You're running at breakneck speeds. Do you happen to notice the flowers in the background, or the beautiful scenery, or the fresh air, or the sun on your face, or anything like that?
Yeah. No, you don't. You're running.
No, you don't notice any of that stuff because you're too busy trying to survive, trying to get ahead. And you're huffing and puffing, and your body is trying just to survive. So one day out of the week, if we just stop and we try to survive, or we stop trying to just to survive and just look around and just breathe the air, just look around, feel the sun on your face, notice the clouds in the sky, maybe smell the flowers, whatever. Just don't get stung by the bee that happen to be pollinating the flowers. If you do all these things, something amazing happens in your mind. You become more stimulated. You become a happier person. Do all these things, and something is just, it's an unbelievable thing. But you find yourself a much happier person in general. And so I'm actually looking at this coronavirus as if it was, maybe it was God's way of saying, hey, chill out, yo. Calm down just a little bit, guys. You're too hard. And what do? We fight it. We fight when people tell us to do good things, right? Yeah. So maybe the big dog upstairs is looking down and he's going, you know what? You don't want to take a break? All right, I'm going to make y'all take a break.
We're going to force you to take one. Kind of like telling the little kid to take a nap, force them to take a nap. Take a nap, you're tired. No, I'm not. Take a nap. I think one thing back to the constitutional thing, I think one thing to point out is it's funny, kind of the roles have kind of switched over, where you have, you, me, the veterans, people that are like, government oppression, no, revolution, Red Dawn, the chairs against the wall, all that kind of stuff, where if someone, came and imposed a lockdown just normally, you'd have all these people be like, no. But then now that we got the quarantine and there's an epidemic out, people are like, yeah, that's a great idea, Chief. That's like me and you were like totally like, yeah, do it because people are sick. We need to minimize our exposure. Yeah, totally do it. Funny how the roles have changed.
I don't know that the roles have changed. I approach it from a different standpoint of saying, we need to protect the sick and the elderly, and it goes along with the same concept of vaccination. A lot of people are scared to death of vaccinations, and I get it. There's risk that could come along with the vaccine. What's the likelihood of the risk? It's very, 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 very small.
Look at me. I turned out fine.
Probably not the best argument, but there is some risk that, you incur for the greater good to maybe assist somebody else. Cause there's people out there who legit cannot get certain vaccines. Those vaccines will wreck their immune system.
Hurt them.
They might not, their immune system might already be wrecked. So we do what's best for other Americans. And it goes right back to the 9/11 thing. When we had 9/11 kickoff, and I hate to keep going back to 9/11, but it's probably the freshest incident in most modern American memory that we can go to, that people understand.
In our history, it's the biggest event that's happened, the largest,
right?
And the largest amount of life lost in the shortest amount of time,
right? And everybody dropped their criticisms of one another. They stopped looking at each other as if they're horrible human beings or whatever it is, and they started looking at it and they're like, there's a bigger problem here. We started focusing on the bigger picture, and I kind of missed that, because I don't know that America was ever united in as much as they were, or well, I guess Americans were pretty united during the Gulf War.
I think at that point they were kind of still used to the communism versus democracy kind of thing, and Saddam Hussein, I think, was an extension of that. I don't know.
Well, we were still fresh off of the Cold War at that time too.
Yeah, so we were kind of really like, there are USOs, but USO stuff and all that stuff, but then they don't have. Yes, you have to remember, they don't have the social media like we did back then. So, they just maybe a lack of information on it, because they just didn't have, cellular cameras everywhere. It took pictures, and all this stuff and all this jazz. So I can't really tell you for sure.
We also didn't have the media sensationalism that we have in 2020.
Well, I know we had a victory parade in New York when they came back. We had a victory parade, and I think they said a lot of Vietnam vets kind of took it as, they worked to kind of make sure when they came home, they were greeted with, not like they were treated with respect, not like how they were when they came home. People were like, they made sure that they got the proper welcome home.
That's a good point. I do remember talking to a couple of different Vietnam veterans about that. The way that our Vietnam veterans were treated was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, even the World War II veterans treated the Vietnam veterans like crap.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't hear anything about that.
One particular Vietnam era vet that I know has told me, like, I'll never be a member of the VFW. And I'm like, wait, what? The Veterans of Foreign Wars, like that? Isn't that a nonprofit that's like pro-veteran? He's like, well, yeah, they're pro-veteran, but when I came back from Vietnam, it was all World War II veterans that ran it and owned, it was the World War II guys that hung out there and ran the place, whatever. And so when we came home, the World War II guys were running their mouths to us and they were talking smack to us. And it was like we were a different breed or something, like we were below them. And I found it interesting because Vietnam, the guys who came home from Vietnam, they learned something from this entire experience. They said, well, you know what we'll never, ever do is we'll never, ever look at our veterans from future wars or other conflicts the same way that these guys have done to us.
I didn't know that. I never really looked into it too. But I mean, I can understand what you're saying about the vets, the Vietnam vets being like, I don't want to be treated like that, because I've seen that before. They're like, I was treated like crap. I don't want you to be treated like crap because I've been in your shoes. You were just following orders.
Well, and the Vietnam guys changed the VA.
Did they really? I don't know.
Oh yeah. The VA was god awful terrible. I mean, you can Google this and read anecdotal information. I mean, like, the VA is not amazing.
I was gonna say they improved it.
But what it used to be versus what it is today, is like it's night and day.
Mhm.
Now, granted, it's still, in my estimation, a second class level of healthcare.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I mean, like this is the argument against the socialized medicine and what have you.
Oh yeah.
But
burning.
you know, socialized medicine sounds great until you're a part of the system in which the socialized medicine all of a sudden, like, listen, I've had some great doctors at the VA, but I've had a ton of crappy doctors at the VA.
And it's funny, people don't know that. Even Jake, my own brother, who was in the Air Force, he doesn't even know about that. Remember, we did a podcast back, when he was here back in December, January, and he was like, socialized medicine. Why don't we do that? It was so great.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, and his quote was, "It was so great for me to walk into a hospital, throw my ID card down, and they went, all right, this way." And they said, what he did not understand was that when he went into the hospital that time for that, he was an active Air Force man.
Mm-hmm.
And they are like, okay, cool, go back there, you're good. He was active military. He was in the Air Force. And they squared him away.
It was a matter of national security to keep him healthy.
That was not, that's not how the VA works. I've had a couple moments where they've been like, hey, we need to give you a test now, so we'll see you next week. And I'm like,
yeah.
What? And it's like we have it pretty lucky here in my area. Big Springs is relatively pretty quick. The wait times usually not that long. They're usually pretty quick. My downside is I have to travel an hour and a half away to get that appointment. If I miss that appointment, I have to wait another month for it. Yep. But if I'm there in the VA hospital, they'll be like, all right, come on back, But
yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because listen, yeah, it's great that I don't have to pay for my medicine or my drug. It's great that I don't have to pay for my treatment. But you got to understand that with not paying for it comes a certain level. Like I've said this time and time again, I will never have surgery from a doctor at the VA. I know a guy who died on the operating table in Big Spring. It's not a joke. No joke. I mean, he died.
What was he in there for?
Wish I knew. Didn't know. It was several years back. Right after I got out of the military, I was working at Walmart, and one of the guys that I worked with, he was a real good guy. He happened to be a vet, and he had his VA benefits and everything, and he just worked to work. He just wanted something to do. And I think it's about a year or two later, I happened to be in that Walmart. I had since gotten a better job and, moved on and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyways, I was in there and I ran into a couple of people I used to work with. And I had asked one lady in particular, said, oh yeah, hey, whatever happened to Ron? She goes, oh, poor Ron. What? Oh yeah, to the VA and had some kind of a surgery and he died. What? Yeah. He went in for surgery and didn't come out.
It was for a cyst removal. You're removing a cyst.
God only knows. I don't know the whole story, but I mean, that was enough for me to go, you know what? If I ever have to have a surgery, I'm going to utilize the choice program because I'm not letting a VA doc cut into me. They can run their scans and look at my blood work all they want to. I'm not getting a surgery through them. But anyway, back to the whole national security thing.
Yeah, we've gotten way off subject. I was about to say that.
Well, and so that with your brother, being able to slap his card down, that's a matter of national security. Yes. When you're in the military, you should have a decent level of care because you have to stay functioning in order to be able to deploy. And because the military will remove people who are non-deployable.
Oh yeah.
Because there's no purpose in having somebody in the military when they can't deploy. Mm-hmm. That's your job. That's what you do. That's like being a mailman that doesn't deliver mail. Or a milkman who doesn't deliver milk.
Yes, great examples.
I do analogies well. So that was a matter of national security. Now, when you compare the veterans versus the active duty guys, well, veterans are not a matter of national security to any degree. Well, they could be to a small degree if, the veterans get pissed off and start, marching in the streets or whatever. But we don't do stuff like that.
We like to stay home.
Yeah, we like to stay home. Like we've seen enough of the world. We don't care. Considering all that we know about the virus, man, it's not hard. Just stay home. Just chill and enjoy your family for a while.
Yeah, dude, that's the biggest thing. Like I said, I think the people that are raising the most ruckus is just people that like to argue. And so I think just let them do their job. All right. Don't go up and start bothering National Guardsmen who are just like, don't start like, you're invading my rights. Dude, I'm just holding a stop sign.
Yep.
I'm not, stop bothering me. Just let them do their jobs. The quicker they get the jobs done.
I promise you, the National Guard guys, they're not invading your rights. They took an oath.
They just let them do their jobs. I don't think it's an infringement on rights. Yeah, if you want to get technical, someone could say it is, but the government was just going to argue it back, saying you're a threat to someone else. Just let them do their job.
That being said, if you are a veteran and you do see them and they happen to leave their Humvee unsecured, don't steal it. Just go move it and turn it around, put it in a different spot, have a little bit of fun with the guard boys. Seriously, don't do that.
Yeah, seriously, if you find some unsecured ground, let's just have a training experience with them and put it in your backyard. And then when they're gone and the private's getting yelled at as they're driving away, be like, oh, I forgot to tell them. I put it in the backyard as a training experience. We're going to have fun with that. I should tell them. They're too far. Looks like I got a new pair of nuts.
You don't have to worry about them shooting at you. They've only got 5 rounds apiece.
What is it? What were we talking about? Steal the pokey bait, Twinkies. I stole the Twinkies. What about the rocket launcher? Did you take it?
I'm missing my month's supply of Twinkies. What happened? That, in a nutshell, is the National Guard. Bill, you got anything to add to today's COVID-19 episode?
Yes. So we're looking at what, a month indoors? This?
I thought it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks, a month, whatever. What do you plan on doing with your time? What do you got going on? What are you gonna do anything like?
My life hasn't changed a bit.
Dang. I'm probably gonna play more video games, and I think I'm gonna let the facial hair grow out and just kind of one of those things. You're
gonna grow a beard?
I'm gonna just let it grow. I'm just gonna let it grow. I'm not gonna touch it. Just gonna let it grow. I may trim up around the mouth.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep it trimmed. The girls don't like a messy beard.
Well, what girl am I gonna find in a quarantine?
Your mom's there.
Hey, Mom, that hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Get some pizza rolls, Mom.
Pizza rolls. Make sure they're sanitized. That's about it, man. That's play video games. You'll probably hear plenty of me and drink some beer and max and relax.
Oh, and one other thing on the quarantine thing. During this time, every business that I've seen has reacted in a very amazing way. I contacted I'm a co-owner of a gym, and I contacted my business partner and was talking to him about what the plan is in place in case anybody does start, the state quarantines or what have you. And it turns out that there's been a lot of people who are doing this. A lot of different companies, like the YMCA has done it. Thrive MBSC has done it. There's all sorts of different companies that are doing this now, but they have exercise programs that you can stream live on Zoom. And by the way, I'm just going to call it out now. Zoom is probably going to have some killer earnings. So if you're a short-time stock buyer, you might look at Zoom. But there's going to be all these exercise programs that are put in place during the quarantine. So there's no excuse for you not to exercise.
Yeah, definitely. And I think now is the proper time to give a good shout out to some of those businesses, and schools that are working right now to try to get the online going right now. Yeah, it's a BS situation we're in, but at least those people are working through it. I know my school's trying to switch just a basic day-to-day face-to-face class to an online class. And I know here on the 23rd, we're supposed to be going back and getting online to go back. But I also hear, your school that your kids go to, they're switched to online.
Yep.
A lot of the schools here are switched to online, but there's also, some other organizations like NASA, for example, is starting to put programs online so people can access them. students have something to do while they're in there, and they can learn some. And there are a couple of those organizations. I think it's a good shout out to say, hey, good job, guys.
Absolutely.
Please, I, if you're watching this or not, hey, keep up good work, man. Like your business right there. That's great. Anything to keep people inside and keep them moving, and just to kind of dampen the blow of not seeing family or friends or being stuck indoors.
Yeah, you're right. The technology that we have available to us right now is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely amazing.
The group that my wife works with, she's in real estate, right? So it's really hard for some people to be like, well, yeah, I want people to come and buy my house. I want people to come and look at my house, but then I'm worried about the virus. So if you're worried about the virus, here's what this group has done. They've said, well, that's no problem. We'll just have somebody go in and video the house for you, and then we'll send you the video, or we'll go in and do a Facebook Live with you, or a Zoom meeting with you, or a Skype meeting with you. The internet infrastructure that we have in 2020 is so amazing that people are beginning to discover that they can put all their business online.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be face-to-face in every scenario, in every situation. Now, it's great to have face-to-face contact with people. Absolutely. But it's not mandatory because of all of the infrastructure that we've got built up. So while you're quarantined, while you're locked down, while you're doing your thing, whatever, this is my biggest encouragement to everybody is do something that's physically demanded. Some kind of physical fitness. Don't forget to go for a walk or do some.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go for a run still too.
Great, do that because it's great for the release of endorphins in the body. It keeps the brain active and focused. Don't be afraid to get online and learn something new for yourself, even as an adult. Absorb the podcast. Maybe take one of those free Coursera classes online. You can you can go to freaking Harvard online if you want to and take a class. It's not even graded. Just do it. So enrich yourself, enrich your mind, enrich your body, do something great while you're locked down, quarantined, whatever you want to call it.
Reflect, do something.
In other words, do some freaking push-ups.
Nailed it right there.
Goodbye, everybody.
Peace out. A-Town Downtown.